This is the time, this is the place, and this is FC3 Monkey Business, your one-stop shop for everything geeky. And since everything is geeky, if you love it enough, you never know what you're gonna get. I am your host, IMC. And this week, we welcome Paul LaPorte, board game designer, to talk about his game Book It and his experience with the crowdfunding site Kickstarter. After that, stick around for our upcoming events and our question of the week. In the studio with me today, cat lover aficionado and lover of great music, Mr. Billy DeTore.
And very tired human being.
Yeah, I know that feeling right now. Exhaustion is a thing.
So, I'm here.
I'm glad to see it.
Me too.
Now, what's got you so tired?
I don't know. I do know, and it's embarrassing. I ate way too much last night, and my stomach hurt all night, so I didn't sleep well.
Okay, see, that's legit. I had... My daughter finished off the last performance of her high school career last night. She was the tech crew at the Aquinas Drama Club there. They did their show Into the Woods this time around. And she was the manager of Deck Left. So she was excited about that. But we had the cast party at my house last night. 35 screaming teenagers.
Ugh.
And a variety of parents and adults that would stop in to keep an eye on things. Now, I was clever enough to clean out my attic and put some Christmas lights up there, so I made a great hangout space 2 floors above. So when they were done eating like a plague of locusts, they all migrated up, and they had a grand old time, and Jules just had the best time ever, and she was so happy. And that was the payoff pitch. But, man, I'm telling you, when the last one left at like 2 in the morning, and then a couple stayed to do a sleepover with Jules. And so, I wake up and there's girls all strewn about my living room, and it wasn't a spring break thing. It was a very long day getting ready for that. But it was worth it. The kids had a great time, so that was worth it.
Oh, good. And one little tip, if you eat an order of wings and a bowl of spaghetti meatballs, you don't need a piece of chocolate cake.
Chocolate cake helpful. Is never a need.
Helpful safety tip. Thank you, Egon. And also with us, producer Sherry is on board today. Hello, young lady. Good to see you again.
Hello.
Love it when you make the trip in and hang out with us.
Me too.
It's so much easier to be able to talk to you to your face.
I agree.
It is.
And it's a nice face.
It is. It is a lovely face.
It is so challenging over the phone.
It is. It really is.
Mm-hmm. It is so difficult, whether she's driving or just sitting there and things like that. There's like so much feedback because we tried talking to her yesterday.
Yeah,
and
it's tough.
And the speaker trying to, she can't hear half of us and we can't hear half of her. Yeah. And then we were trying to figure out what all the feedback was, and we're like, can she hear us? And
it sounded on my end, and Monk can attest to this, it sounded like there was a ton of extra conversation going on.
Yeah.
Around, like everybody was talking about something else, and only Dan and Ann were talking to us, and you guys were all talking to each other, and we could barely hear anything. That's what it sounded like.
That was what the whole rest of the meeting was like anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we were just like,
yeah,
it's challenging.
And that voice is, of course, the greatest co-host in radio history, Miss Tanya Metris. Nice to see you again.
There was a lot of this going on.
We had a board meeting yesterday.
And there's so many more notes, and I don't even understand half my notes and things like that. And I'm not going to.
You don't understand your own notes? Is that what you're saying, Tanya?
I'm like, and I have notes on a piece of paper too, and I'm doing emails this morning. So if I'm a little quieter today, it's because I'm working for the other stuff.
We still love you, honey.
To get ready for the other podcast and last minute emails, and I never looked to see what kind of signs that we had back at home after.
I know. We'll work it all out.
I got more stuff to do.
We've got 2 weeks. We'll be fine.
No, we have less than 2 weeks.
We will figure it out.
What's the thing?
All right, we don't need
countdown.
That's not important right now, is it? It's not, because I'm going to go to my left now. And on my immediate left is the bouncing baby girl herself. Hello, monkey girl.
Hello.
There she is. How you doing, Alana?
I'm good.
Are we having fun yet?
I'm always having fun I'm here.
She is a bundle of fun when she walks in the door. That's it. She is fun. She is fun sized. She is the size of fun.
She's
what
giant
are you talking about?
This is the true size of fun right here. Is Alana.
5'9" is the true size of fun.
I'm not that
Well,
tall.
these little dinky chocolate bars, that's not fun. Okay, Alana is fun. Especially when she's all geared out and she's doing roller derby and she comes around and she just cross-checks somebody across the back of the head, lays him out, and she's like, yay, I'm so awesome. And yes, you are.
Lana's going, I can't do that. That's illegal.
Exactly.
No, you should have seen her at practice on Thursday. She was so good. She was doing so good. And she's just teaching all the younger the young. Well,
she's passing on her knowledge. She's becoming a Jedi Master.
She is.
That's amazing.
Is.
And at the far end of this semicircle,
hello there,
Mr. Tony Bacchetta. He's on the lame mic today.
I am. So if I
get
come
in on
a little
there.
Quiet, I'll. You guys know why.
Tanya, what was that instruction you gave to Tony before we started recording?
He's fired?
No.
Make love.
Make love to that microphone. Get in on there.
I told you, we're just really good friends.
Yeah, well, you need to become better friends with them.
Friends with benefits. Friends with benefits. That's a thing. So here we are. We're doing a thing. So we're going to have Paul LaPorte. He's going to be calling in. We're going to have him on the phone.
We're going to have him on the phone.
And that's going to be in a couple of minutes. And he's designed the board game Book It. And he did this through crowdfunding. He did through Kickstarter is what you're saying.
Yes, he did. Book It, the wrestling promoter card game.
The wrestling promoter card game. Okay,
Yes.
that sounds vaguely...
I think I want to play this.
I think you do. And he has kindly donated his game to us for our play and win table at FC3. So we will have a series of games that if you play it, you will then be eligible to be entered into a drawing to win that game. And this is going to be one of the ones that we're going to be showcasing.
That is outstanding. Okay, so that's cool. So you, my dear listener, will have a chance to screw around with that when you get an opportunity to see us in a very short amount of time at the Blue Cross Arena. Yeah, Tanya was she's ready to correct me on the number of days. I'm like, no, short amount of time.
It was your phrasing.
Phrasing?
Yes.
I don't understand.
Yeah. Did you catch it?
Yes.
Oh, I got it.
What did I do?
You screw around with us?
That's a problem?
Well, maybe not for you.
No, come on. Very open and accepting. Anyway.
We're all friends here. Very, very good friends.
Okay.
So to let you know,
right.
Tony's at the other end of the studio, far, far away from the rest of us.
In a galaxy far, far away.
And I have to say, this conversation is getting slightly uncomfortable considering I gave birth to one of the people at
laughing.
the semicircle. So, Tony, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for making it awkward.
You're welcome.
Chris helped.
I have no idea what you're talking about. I was just speaking innocently, and you're the ones who twisted everything around.
At least I didn't mention that none of us are wearing pants.
And there you go, folks.
See, every so often, I get that I hear the voiceover at the end of the Dave Letterman show. Worldwide pants. Anyway,
It's funny you say that, Billy. Is that when my sister Jen and I had an apartment together, and we would have people over, and we would play drinking games. This was back when we were young and stupid and didn't have children yet. And there was a rule. There was a no pants rule. You couldn't play drinking games in our apartment if you were wearing pants.
wow.
So did you wear skirts?
Nope. Oh, no, you could if you were a guy.
Board shorts?
You could wear... No, it was underwear.
Underwear only?
Yep.
Drinking games and underwear?
Yep.
Oh, boy.
And
Yeah,
the funny
okey-dokey.
thing was, it was never with people we wanted to sleep with. It was just kind of happened that way.
This awkward piece of trivia brought to you by X-Lax. One way or another, it's coming out. Or their other motto: "This too shall pass." We're going to take a quick break. When
Thank God.
When we're done composing ourselves, we're going to bring on Paul there, and we're going to have ourselves a little fun conversation. Okay, let's get to the brass tacks of it. Launched in April of 2009, Kickstarter is a crowdfunding platform focused on creativity and merchandising. Kickstarter helps artists, musicians, filmmakers, designers, and other creators find the resources and support they need for their ideas to make their ideas a reality. Kickstarter has reportedly received more than $4 billion, that's with a B, in pledges from 15.5 million backers to fund 257,000 creative projects such as films, music, stage shows, comics, journalism, video games, technology, food-related projects, and Jerry Mathers as the Beaver. Had to do that. It was just a thing. It was leading right into it. People who back Kickstarter projects are offered tangible rewards or experiences in exchange for their pledges. This model traces its roots to a subscription model of arts patronage, where artists would go directly to their audiences to fund their work. Paul LaPorte has an idea for a game and turned to Kickstarter for a way to fund it. Paul launched his campaign on April 5th of 2018 and was fully funded by April 21st. He was supported by 519 backers and is now fully fulfilling their faith in him by putting the game Book It, the wrestling promoter card game, into the hands of the people who believed in him. That is awesome. So that's like what? It was like 15, 20, I can't do math. 16 days. You did it in 16 days. Paul, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
That is outstanding. 16 days. I'm going to just kind of like marvel over that. I know some other recent successes in Kickstarter. I've seen some really great projects get a lot of support, so this is kind of cool. But my first question for you, Book It, the wrestling promoter card game. Where did you get the idea for that?
So I'm the type of guy who can never sit still and never do any one thing for any too long, for any long period of time. So I get involved in a lot of different things. So obviously I've been a pretty avid board gamer, card gamer since I was a young child, 12 years old probably.
Okay.
Younger than that. So, I've always been kind of very heavily involved and interested in board games and card games. But one of the other things I do is I've been involved in many different facets with independent professional wrestling. So this is not like big WWE scale, but this is kind of like the more local and regional level. I've been involved with a lot of different people who work for those promotions. I've worked for some myself. And really I got the idea because I was going out on a camping trip with some friends of mine who were independent wrestlers. And they're all into board games and card games too. And, when you go on a camping trip, you bring some games along. And I just decided, like, you know what, I'm gonna try and make one. Like, I'm gonna try and do one of these on my own. And I've had experience with writing lots of different tabletop role-playing game campaigns and stuff throughout my life. So I'm kind of, I kind of have the idea of what design is like. So I just kind of took some elements of different games I've played throughout the past, kind of mushed them together, tried to bend them to fit the flavor of what it's like to be somebody who's running one of these promotions, which is a perspective that no other card game about wrestling has been before. Usually when it's a wrestling card game, it's I'm a wrestler and you're a wrestler and we're trying to fight each other. But me being on the inside, wrestling's a competitor, is a cooperative thing. It's not two people competing against each other. It's two people working together. But where it is competitive is in that business side between all the different promotions that are running. So I wanted to put people in the shoes of that. And I threw together a prototype. Everybody really enjoyed it. I just kind of kept tweaking it and building it here and there. I got hooked up with an artist by the name of Alex Mahoney, who lives in Australia. She's done a lot of merchandise design for a lot of very, very, very well-known independent wrestlers. She loved the idea. She did the artwork for it, and it just kind of gained steam from there. About a year after doing all of that, I decided, hey, let's put this on Kickstarter, put it up, and the rest is history.
That is amazing. That is very cool, and congratulations for that. Because I've seen some Kickstarters that have gone pretty much nowhere. So to see that success, that's definitely very cool. So tell us about the game itself. How's it structured? What's the point of it? How's the story unfold? What's the dynamic of it?
So the way the game works is, like I mentioned, everybody is a pro wrestling promoter of their own little company. So that's kind of the way it is. It's an economy management sort of game. So you have money you're trying to take in. You have victory points you're trying to get, which is in terms of your reputation. So those are basically your two different economies: the money you make, and then how good of a show you're actually putting on. And then you're doing this over the course of 6 turns. Each turn, you're trying to pay money to sign certain wrestlers to your promotions. Each wrestler has a couple different stats that represent how much money they're going to make you if you put them on your show, how good of a wrestler they actually are, which will determine how much your reputation increases. So you're signing these people, you're trying to upgrade your kind of starting guide. So it's a deck building game. So it's very similar to like a Dominion or something like that.
Okay.
And that you start off with kind of very, very little resources, and then as turns go by, you're getting more and more. The difference between this game and other deck building games like Dominion is that once you've put a wrestler on your show, they kind of go back to the general pool and you get more money and more resources from them, but then you kind of may potentially have to sign them again in future turns. Your deck doesn't keep getting larger and larger. Your starting pool at the beginning of each turn keeps getting bigger and bigger, and then you're just kind of trying to re-sign everybody again.
Gotcha.
And then you have to kind of decide what you want to do, is if you want to book a promotion that makes a lot of money or book a promotion that is very well liked in terms of the show that they're putting on. And then at the end of the game, the person with the highest reputation wins. It takes place over 6 turns. Usually a game takes about an hour to an hour and a half, and it's playable from, you can play it solo, and it's up to 4 players.
Now, do the wrestlers gain and lose points based on, or you as a booker, is it based on you as a booker being able to promote, say, a mid-card wrestler and bring them to a headline spot, or do you lose points by a headliner wrestler just not going over and losing favor with the audience?
So I tried to take it from the perspective, because I have had a hand of kind of arranging these shows before, and when you're booking, in reality, kind of that smaller level show, nobody really cares about who wins and loses. They care about how good the match itself was.
Yeah.
So what you're trying to do is you're trying to sign people with, great ability or great, star power in terms of drawing in money, and then you're trying to put them against people with similar attributes. So you get a bonus to things if you put together 2 people who have the same work rate. So 2 people who are on the same level will gel a little bit better together. They'll give you a little bit more reputation. If you put 2 people against each other who have the same star power, they're considered marketable. People want to see them wrestle each other, so that'll give you a little extra boost to your money. If you put together 2 people who have the same different style, because there's all types of wrestlers. There's lucha libre wrestlers, there's hardcore wrestlers, there's sports entertainment wrestlers and strong style wrestlers. If you put together 2 people who have the same style, it gives you a little bit more versatility of how you can lay out the rest of your show, because they'll be a little bit more willing to work with each other. So it's really more in terms of not the granular wins and losses. It's just how well of an overall show you put together. That's what's going to determine what makes you that money and what brings your reputation up.
That's good. Now, do you use like established wrestlers? Do you use like people that like anybody off would know, or have you created characters?
So all of the wrestlers in the game are fictional, but they are all inspired by real world people. Sometimes it's one person, sometimes it's a couple people kind of mashed together. If you are somebody who knows if you're someone who's familiar with professional wrestling, you will definitely know these people, and that's kind of become a little bit of a game amongst the people who have been, play testing this game, or who have been playing it through earlier channels. Like I put it on Tabletop Simulator, and I've had a print and play version. Is like who is who? Like they try and see who can guess how many of them they are, and then they'll come to me and be like, "Hey, is this person this guy?" And "Hey, is this person this person?" And then I'll tell them yes or no.
Yeah.
But my knowledge of professional wrestling is pretty deep and pretty obscure, so
nice.
I don't think anybody's gotten all of them yet.
Oh, I think you and Billy will definitely have a long conversation ahead of you on that one, because he's been following it forever and a day. Now, and so you don't use like the funny names, like your Hulk Hogan analog is not Bulk Logan or something. Like you don't do something silly like that. You really kind of craft the character and then have kind of like part of the fun is letting people guess.
I mean, there are definitely some callbacks to the wrestlers. Okay. Usually it's either in the name or it's in the art. It may be both. Some of them are certainly a lot easier to guess than others. But I kind of sprinkle with it. I don't make it that simple to guess.
Gotcha.
We actually, we sat down, and I sat down with a bunch of my friends, and we all kind of wrote down names for each of these different. At the time, I did playtesting cards with all of the real world analogs. I sat everybody down, and I was like, okay, I need to come up with names for these people. Let's all think of a name, and then I'm going to select the best ones. And then we all did that for all 60 of them, and then that's what ended up kind of getting them where they at. So like I said, there are definitely some that are going to be easier to guess than others, especially if you're not super familiar with pro wrestling. There's ones that are very surface level, but there are some very deep cuts in there too.
Now, here's a question for you before I get some of the logistical questions that Sherry wanted me to ask out of the way. Are you any good at your own game?
I am not the best at my own game. I do have a friend who consistently wins, which was one of the interesting things when I was playing is that the balance of luck versus skill, and that's where I kind of knew that I was on the right track, because my friends who are better at card games and board games overall tend to do better in this game.
Okay.
I'm going to whoop any newcomer in for sure. I'm probably top 5 in my game, but I'm not the best by any stretch. And I have some friends who have played this game very avidly, probably who have played it more than I have, and that's saying something.
That's awesome. But that's awesome.
Tend to be the best at it.
Your game is taking on a life of its own at this point. That is so cool.
Yeah, and that's another cool thing is that, because I have put this up on Tabletop Simulator and there have been print and plays floating around, there have been different metagames that have developed for different regions. Like, I'll have people come to me and tell me that this card is awful and this card is broken, and then I'll have another group come to me and tell me this card is awful and this card is broken, but they're opposite. It's like there's really different, like metagames and styles that have developed for different play groups. So that's another thing that was really encouraging to me, was to see people are going into the next level of this and trying to figure out the deeper strategies that go into this. Because even though, this does have a very kind of niche theme that it's going around, a niche flavor, obviously if you're a pro wrestling fan, you're going to get a lot out of this. I do genuinely believe, and I built this to be the case, that if you are just a person who likes card games or board games, you're going to get a lot out of this as well. I do think it's a very sound and solid, strategy game in terms of deck building too. So
very cool.
I put a lot of effort into that.
Now, Sherry, I think we mentioned earlier, we have a copy of it. It's going to be at the show?
Yes.
In April?
Yes.
All right. So, Billy, you interested for a round?
Absolutely.
Yeah? So,
Yeah.
okay. So, and now Paul,
be there.
you're not coming to FC3 yourself. Am I correct in that one?
Unfortunately not. I do have a huge convention coming up this next weekend, the weekend of the 5th.
Okay.
In New York City. It's WrestleCon, which is actually where I launched the game last year, and I think one of the reasons that it was so successful is because I got a lot of buzz down there for that.
Good deal.
So we're going to be there for that. I'm going to probably be recovering for the following week, but we're definitely sending some copies to you guys.
Sounds good.
So you're going to have one for the Playroom, and I think I'm going to give you guys one to give away as well.
That's awesome. Thank you for that, man. I appreciate it. Now, I know
Absolutely.
Billy, his thing is wrestling.
Yeah, I love it. I've been watching it since I was a little kid, and I'm now 53. So
Give or take.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had to think.
We lose track around 35. That's the thing.
Yeah, I just turned 34 on Friday, so
congratulations, man! Happy belated.
How was the birthday?
Thank you. It was awesome. It was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Good deal. All right, so let's get to some nuts and bolts too. We talked about the game, but one of the questions we have, because there's a lot of people in our circle of influence here that are interested in stuff like this. But why did you choose to use Kickstarter in the first place?
So I think the reason that I went with something like Kickstarter, number one, I actually had used it before. Prior to doing this, again, that whole I can't stand still thing, I had self-published a couple of comic books that were super small scale, like $1,500 projects. So I had used Kickstarter, so I was kind of familiar with it already. But it was also just a case of, in terms of crowdfunding versus trying to sell this to a publishing company, I know that a big company like Fantasy Flight or Z-Man or what, one of those larger companies, they, number one, I don't know if they would have been interested in it. It's too niche of a product. Number two, if they were interested, they probably would have made too many changes to it that I wouldn't have been happy with, that's their job as a publishing company. That's fine. But I decided that I was just going to open this up for the people who wanted it. They could support it. They could spend their money. They could back it. And if I had enough, then great. If I didn't, then this is just going to be a thing that's going to stay with my friends. But, because I am a one-person show, because I do have a full-time job and other side projects that I do, I couldn't really go from convention to convention shopping this out to different publishing companies. This is really the only avenue I could have done this through for somebody who has my kind of schedule. So It was just kind of a natural fit for me.
And now your minimum was 18,000, and as you passed it, you started adding stretch goals. How did you decide what those stretch goals were going to be? How did that equation work?
So I did a lot of research going into before I ever did the campaign. If you are somebody who is interested in doing a crowdfunding campaign, whether it's board games or even otherwise, there's a lot of good information there. If you go to Stonemaier Games, which is the company that made Scythe, the Jamie Stagmeyer, one of the directors there, has just thousands and thousands and thousands of words on running a Kickstarter campaign and the things you need to do and the research you need to do. And one of the things I looked into was stretch goals, and really when you're trying to figure out stuff you can add into the game without really increasing the cost beyond what it would be, it's really just taking there's a little bit of math you have to do in terms of the copies that you produce and then how much those individual copies cost. And then as you start to go over your goal amount, you go, okay, well, I can afford to put this much more into each copy. What can I do for that? So then, I add another card into there because I have to pay for the art and then the amount to produce this additional card for the additional components. We went from having plastic components to wood components. We went from having a cardboard insert tray to a plastic insert tray. It was really just kind of taking the amount of money that the campaign was going over by and then reinvesting it back into the game. So that's really what a stretch goal kind of should be if you're doing something like that. It's how can I increase the value of this game because I now have more to spend on each individual copy.
Got it. So it's kind of like how you go from point A to point B, and you're just building, you're investing in that project to make it even better down the road.
Yeah. So the initial goal amount was, okay, well, I have to pay X amount per copy. I have to pay X for shipping and then X for art and everything and whatnot. Okay, so this is how much I'm going to need. And then as you're getting more money than that, you can go, okay, well, I can now spend this much on the components. I can spend this much on shipping. I can do, different things with that. So it's really just pumping it back into what you're working on to begin with.
And how was the overall experience with it? I mean, does Kickstarter, do they help? Do they counsel, or is it easy to use?
I mean, it's pretty easy to use. Again, I was familiar with it, so it wasn't wasn't anything I was going into for the first time. But there are so many projects that are out there; they're not really giving you any sort of assistance with it. If you get lucky, sometimes you get to the point where they'll put you on the front page as an employee pick or something like that. Which I actually had a friend of mine who helped me with the design on the game. He did a separate, similar. He made a game called Goblinville. Which just went on Kickstarter. He had it like a $500 goal. He made like $6,000 or something like that because he got in a staff pick.
Oh, wow.
He ended up making the front page. So
okay.
He got a lot of good buzz from that. So, but really, I mean, in terms of just the marketing and everything, it's really on your shoulders. So that's why, I flew out to New Orleans to go to WrestleCon because I knew that was where I was going to get the most interest. I met up with some YouTubers who are very prominent in the wrestling circles. And got on their videos, and that's where I kind of got a lot of the interest. You buy advertising through Facebook and Twitter and places like that, so people see that you have a game and they get pointed to it. So you really have to do that yourself. So if you are planning on doing a Kickstarter, and the ones that fail tend to not do this, is you have to put it up and then you have to just market it constantly. Every day you have to go to people and show them that it's there. Otherwise, nobody's going to find it.
And that leads in my follow-up question was going to be if you had any advice for a successful Kickstarter, but it sounds like really, that answer kind of beat me to the punch on that one. You can't just, it's not a fire and forget weapon. You can't just throw it out there and think, well, now it's going to run and I'll just sit back and watch it happen. You got to be doing legwork. You got to be doing, the homework to get it out there.
Yeah, I mean, really, you got to be doing the legwork in terms of letting people know that the campaign's coming a month to 2 months before it even comes out. And then once it actually launches, then you're doing work every single day. I ran my campaign, I think, for a little over a month, and I was doing stuff with it every day in terms of social media, in terms of I went on radio shows, I went on podcasts, I did interviews. Like, you have to do something every single day. You can't just sit there and hope people find it. You have to find the specific areas. What groups on Reddit is this popular with? What Facebook groups can I get on and share this with? What ad space can I buy in places to make this worthwhile? And then you have to follow up with that for that entire time so people will go and check that out. Like, that's all extremely important. You have to do a lot of work for that entire campaign, especially in that last week. Like, you really got to hustle.
That's okay. So that's good information to have. Now, as a curiosity point, we thank you for donating, Book It to our Play and Win table. We're talking about Billy and I already playing around when we get a chance to get our hands on it. For those of us who are not lucky enough to win a copy, how can we purchase it? How would the average listener be able to go, okay, I want a copy of this thing?
So right now we have copies that are available for pre-order on our website. So the website is foamhammergames.com. So foam like the squishy material, hammer like the thing you hit people with. Foamhammergames.com. We have it available for pre-order there. We're going to be shipping out copies after this next weekend, so the weekend of April 8th, we'll start shipping out to those people because, again, we're going to be in New York City for WrestleCon and sending them out there. So that's one way you can play it. If you're somebody who has Tabletop Simulator for Steam, you can play it for free. Just search for Book It on that. There's a digital version of that. If you go to Tabletopia, another online board game tabletop sort of style software, you could play it for free there. I wanted to make sure that people could play this even if they couldn't afford to pick up a copy or they didn't have a lot of people to play with. So there's a lot of avenues that you can play this game if you're interested, and I definitely welcome everybody to check it out in whatever way they can or want to.
Very cool. Very, very cool. And we're going to make sure those links get on to the boost when we launch this podcast coming up. So we're going to have those links out there. So Foamhammer Games, Tabletopia, and Steam. And on Steam you can, and so Tabletopia and Steam you can play it for free. That's I can't ask for anything better than that. That's fantastic. You got this great creative idea. You've got people invested in it. You're making it accessible to folks. That's like the perfect storm right there. So I wish you a lot of success with that. But my curiosity is this. You're the guy who can't sit still. You're always doing something. So my question is, what's next?
So once we get this weekend coming up, obviously this is a huge weekend for us. WrestleCon weekend is always the biggest weekend of the year for us. Once we get done with this, it's probably looking towards planning the first expansion for Book It. I have a couple other ideas for other games that are not related to this at all, so start to kind of develop those. But really, step one is probably going to be working on that first expansion. We have a lot of different ideas, and they're going to be kind of smaller, kind of just individual card packs that we're going to try and keep pretty low cost for us and for the customer. Okay. So working on those. There's a lot of ideas we have. So it's going to be that, and it's going to be building the new community that's going to come up. I'm hoping that there's a lot of people who play this game and get interested in it. We have a really good Discord community that is very into the game and very avid about it. So cultivating that community too. So even when this next weekend is over, it never stops. We're gonna keep going to conventions, keep developing products and keep plugging along.
Like I said, I'm tired, and it literally just hit me. You've mentioned WrestleCon and being a big weekend. It's WrestleMania weekend. That's what's going on down there. That's a thing. So are you going to WrestleMania, the NXT takeover? Will you be in the front row wearing Book It T-shirts and banners and things to let people know about this game?
By the time Sunday rolls around, I will be driving home and I will be watching WrestleMania from my couch.
There it is.
Yay!
WrestleMania it's one of those things where last year in New Orleans we went to the big Ring of Honor show, the Supercard of Honor over there. Had a great time. I've been to NXT shows at the Barclays Center before, so I've done those. We're going to a couple smaller shows. I'm actually sponsoring a show down there called A Matter of Pride, which is an LGBT promotion that runs out of New York City, out of Lucky Cheng's, which is a famous drag bar in New York City. We're sponsoring them. So I'm going to be there on Thursday night. It's going to be an amazing show. It's going to be a very, very wild evening. So I'm going to be checking that out. I'll probably check out some smaller shows because that's kind of where my heart is. So that's the nice thing is that whenever WrestleMania pops up, there's about 20 other smaller shows that pop up around it. So I'm going to probably be running around and checking out a lot of those. And then Sunday morning rolls around, I'm going to get my butt home and then watch Mania from the comfort of my living room.
Will any of the wrestlers from the NXT TakeOver or WrestleMania be at the convention? Can you get like Velveteen Dream to wear a Book It T-shirt into the ring?
Well, unfortunately, WWE runs their own convention called Access. So all of the WWE guys are at that for the whole weekend. But what will happen is that a lot of the independent wrestlers, some of them who these cards are based off of, will be at WrestleCon. I've actually had the chance to meet a couple of them and show them their doppelgangers in the game, and they've all been very cool about it and very into it. So you'll have the chance to see them down there. But in terms of WWE, they exist in their own little ecosystem and their own little bubble, and it's not really something that's easily penetrated.
It's true. True enough. Now, Paul, do you yourself have a website of your own?
I don't have a personal one. I do everything through my business sites.
Gotcha.
So Foam Hammer Games is the way to get a hold of me.
Okay.
I do have a Twitter handle, but again, that's if you go to Foam Hammer Games on Twitter. My info for that is there. I don't know if you want to hear my personal ramblings. You're probably just better off following all of my professional business channels.
Considering what is out there on Twitter, I wouldn't mind those kind of ramblings, to be honest with you. Considering, like, seriously, what have you been out in the Twitterverse lately? Holy Moses, it is a weird place. And that's me saying it.
Definitely.
That is me saying it. The man is excuse me. The man is Paul LaPorte. The game is Book It, the wrestling promoter card game. Get it into your hands. Go play it. FoamHammerGames.com. It is on Steam and it is on Tabletopia for free. Support this man. He is worth it. This is going to be cool. I'm looking forward to trying the game out myself at FC3 coming up in mid-April. Thank you for your time, Paul. You were fantastic, and best of luck to everything's going on in the future for you, man.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a blast.
You are very welcome. You have a great one. We'll talk to you soon.
You too, guys.
That would be a Dan question. Chances are it's a ticket pass.
All right. Hold on. And we'll let Tanya go about her business and be right back.
Here's how obsessed I was with wrestling action figures when I was a kid. Not only did I look for any available opportunity to get new action figures and bring them into my little wrestling world in my bedroom, but every Christmas, and I'm not making this up, every Christmas, I would go underneath the Christmas tree, and you know those little figures of Jesus and Mary and Joseph? Well, I would steal them and bring them into my bedroom and then launch this NWO biblical invasion on all of my regular wrestling action figures. And I'd be calling the action too. I'd be like, Coco, beware, goes up to the top rope. Well, good Lord Almighty, here comes the three wise men. Oh my God. They're handing out gifts of gold, frankincense, and whoop ass. Oh, it's the Bethlehem Wrecking Crew. Folks, we knew Bobby Heenan had something up his sleeve. We didn't think it was going to be this. Oh my Lord. Somebody just nailed the Deuteronomy driver. And here's the thing, folks. Later on in the evening, my dad would always come up to me and be like, hey, buddy, just want to ask you about this. Can you please tell me why baby Jesus is wearing the NWA heavyweight title? And I'd answer him truthfully. I'd say, well, to be honest with you, Dad, the reason baby Jesus is wearing the NWA title is because he's afraid to give Ric Flair a rematch. You know it. I know it, and the whole damn bedroom knows it, brother. Baby Jesus, diamonds are forever, and so is Ric Flair, brother. Woo!
Comedian Mike Cody, I thought, was appropriate.
That was awesome. That was awesome.
That was perfect.
Gold, frankincense, and whoop ass. That's that. I'm going to use that in D&D somewhere along the line tonight. I got to do that. It's just, oh my God, that was awesome. So, it's coming. Like a spider monkey, it is coming at you. April 12th. Friday. We'll sell you the whole seat, but you only need the edge.
Cross Arena.
Nope, this was
Actually,
the Blue Cross
Firehouse
Arena.
Saloon is Friday night.
Oh, that's right.
We're doing the kickoff to 2019 FC3 weekend with a party and Nerdlesque show with some of your favorite characters appearing on stage. Raffles, trivia, and nerdy burlesque to fill the evening. Headed up by our very own in-studio guest, Evie Delilah. For a second, Sherry's looking at me like you're not going to say something. I'm like, oh, Sherry's going to perform too.
No.
With special guest Tanya Tassels.
So for your information, I'm going to be at the airport at that time.
So technically, Chris, you and I are going to be on stage.
Yes.
We'll just be keeping our clothing
For the good of the entire community.
Unlike right now.
unlike right now where nobody can see us.
Yes, we have no pants. But this is going to be at the Firehouse Saloon, 814 Clinton Avenue South, Rochester, New York, 14620. Tickets are $8, general admission, $25 VIP, and that includes a seat up front, a complimentary bottle of champagne, and a surprise.
And I have seen one of the part of the costume that Evie has posted. To it has to do with Pokeballs. and tassels.
You leave my Pokeballs alone. Thank you very much. But then
That's
right
not
after
where they're
that,
going.
the very next day, 12 hours later after the show,
God.
April 13th and 14th, Flower City Comic-Con number 4.
We are invading the Blue Cross Arena.
Invading is probably the best way to describe
We're
it.
sorry. No,
Our top
actually
No,
not.
we're not.
No, we're not.
not.
We're not even thinking about being sorry.
Nope.
Our top guests of honor are Yellow Power Rangers, Tracy Lynn Cruz, Nakia Baris, and Karen Ashley. Wrestler Hacksaw Jim Duggan and actor Michael Bean round off the media panel. Comic artist Rusty Gilligan and Steve Geiger will be on board as well. Courtesy of Broken Icon Comics, we're also welcoming comic artist Rob Dumo, Nick Wetland, and Tristan Kelly. When you add in artists Caitlin Yarsky, Nigel Carrington, and Ken Wheaton, we've got a full weekend of fun, madness, and merriment coming at you. Full throttle, number 4.
And
Flower
if you
City
need me,
Comic-Con.
I will be at the Broken Icon Comics table.
Snuggling the Dumo baby?
Yes.
Yes,
We know that.
Yes.
because she's got old lady baby fever.
That's where I'm going to be.
That's a thing.
I'm sorry, Jess, but I'm coming to steal that baby for a little while.
I don't think she's going to mind too much. She'll probably use the break, and she
Yeah.
knows it'll be safe hands with you. So
Yes.
it's a little girl, right?
Yes,
Gabby.
Oh, she's adorable.
Is she? Well, all babies are little cute little chunkers. But anyway, hey Monk.
Yes.
Would you like to be part of the FC3 Monkey Business and Mighty Monkey Corporation experience?
I mean, I already am, but sure.
Tell me more.
Tell me more, young lady. There are a few ways of doing that. Do you have a list of that so you can read that off to somebody because it's your turn?
I do.
All right.
Wow,
Tell me about the
she's
first
excited.
thing.
She is excited.
Okay. The first is to become a sponsor. We have sponsorship levels of all kinds and are even willing to create custom sponsorship packets. Please contact us at sponsorship@fc3roc.org.
And I can let you know that a couple of our sponsors are returning sponsors of Selena's and Knox.
Awesome.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Hey, Tony,
Jawohl.
what's the next way that somebody could be part of the Mighty Monkey experience?
Well, I'm glad you asked. The next
He's
way,
been dying to do this all week.
The Price is Right sounds like, come on down.
the next is by supporting us on Patreon. Patreon is a way to support people who are creating the things you love. Please check us out at www.patreon.com/FC3ROC. All membership levels will include access to the Patreon-only blog, plus tons of great perks at all levels. Special shout-out to our See No Evil tier Patreons, James Irish and Jen Bevan.
Tony Piccata will be available for voiceover work. I am his agent. You come to me first. Hey, Tanya.
Co-agent. Yes.
Hey, Tanya, do you want to help us find the show?
Absolutely.
Do it up.
Please leave us a review wherever and whenever you listen to us. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Podbean, Listen Notes. Hey, is that new? Listen Notes is new?
Listen Notes is new, and TuneIn is new. So is Blueberry.
Blueberry,
we had.
YouTube, and Stitcher. Is there a place you find your podcasts and you cannot find FC3 Monkey Business? Oh, please let us know, and we will make sure that we get it back so you can listen to us.
Now, that's cool because TuneIn, you can do that on your Alexa.
Yes.
Because I can do a lot of I can, like I say, Alexa, play CNN, and she goes, getting CNN from TuneIn. So I would then go, Alexa, play FC3 Monkey Business.
Yes.
And she would start firing back with my own episodes
Yes.
on my Alexa.
I think Alexa also will do Spotify.
That is brain-numbing.
And iHeartRadio, which I hear is a fabulous company.
Yes. No, we
That's
did.
so
We did.
cool.
We get on a couple of extra ones. TuneIn, Listen Notes, Blueberry. And if you find that you're having trouble finding our newest episodes, when we switched from Spreaker
to Transistor.
A lot of sites still have us both of them up,
Okay.
but the Spreaker one is not currently upgrading, not updating the new episodes. So don't look for the FC3 picture. Look for the picture of the Mighty Monkey House Media Corporation.
Okay, the logo for the media, the multimedia division. Gotcha. Woohoo! All right. Hey, tell us a little bit more about Twitter.
Twitter. I love Twitter.
I know you love Twitter.
Twitter's awesome.
It's
you can
strange.
find us on Twitter.
It's a strange and
ways
unique
to
place.
search on Twitter. I'm like, I don't know how to search for anything.
Please follow us on Twitter at FC3MB Podcast. And if you do, please say hi. We love it when you say hi, and chances are will say hi back.
Yeah, exactly, because we're that socially depraved.
But I was deprived.
That too.
I'm depraved on the count. I'm deprived.
I don't know. I have a hard time searching for anything other than Google, except for stuff on the Google Drive.
That's true. All right,
it's
so
frustrating.
Billy,
Yes.
question of the week time.
Okay.
Coming your way.
I'll do my best.
What historical event or events do you think deserve their own movie that haven't had one already, and why?
I put some thought into this.
Okay.
And the creation of Marvel Comics.
Nice. Oh, that's cool. That's a great idea.
Yeah, it is.
Stan Lee will have a cameo.
It's a gotta thing.
Played by Ryan Reynolds in Deadpool.
Sure, why not? But there's a really good book called Marvel: The Untold Story, which I think could be turned into
An actual
movie or a documentary.
Now, does it
or-
involve what they were timely comics and became Marvel?
Yeah,
Okay.
through the history, but a lot of it's spent on the really important time of the 60s, where, everything blew up from
Yeah.
Fantastic Four to Spider-Man
The
and all the
golden age.
characters you love, and up through the 70s. And I think a movie should be made about the history of Marvel Comics.
I think
agree.
that's a fantastic idea and very, very appropriate for the current culture.
Of course.
Anthony
The
Ezekiel Baqueta.
That's not my middle name.
I don't care. It is now.
It is now.
The story of Witold Pilecki. He was a Polish soldier, a
Okay.
Polish hero actually, during World War II.
Okay.
He was actually the first person to report on the condition at Birkenau and Auschwitz.
So he was kind of like the Bob Woodward of his day. He broke the story open.
Yeah, and then after the war, he was executed by the Polish Communist Party.
Oh, nice. Well, that's a great thank you for doing the right thing. Young lady, Ms. Metris over there. Should I skip you for a moment or five?
Like the next decade. Remember, I'm not a big history fan, so therefore it's like...
Is there one thing, though? Is there
You
one thing
know,
that you
I
haven't
think-
seen in a movie?
I think the historical event is Hitler has to have learned from Napoleon not to invade Russia because
I got that lesson from Vicini.
because Napoleon wasn't really successful. And then so many decades later,
Yeah.
Hitler did the same thing and didn't
Never get into a
succeed.
land war in Asia.
Yeah, so something
Asia, yes.
along that line is why do you not invade Russia going through Ukraine?
Yeah.
It's like the whole history
How
of
about
playing Risk
just-
or something.
How about just not invading Russia in the winter?
Yeah, there's a
Isn't
thing.
most of the Russia covered?
Most of Russia is in winter.
time?
Yeah, even the
Winter is
southern
coming
reaches of
and has stayed for
Well,
whatever.
the thing is, like, the Mongolians were able to do it, but the Mongolians were coming from the other end.
Right.
Yeah.
They were coming from farther north.
Yes. They came in from the backside.
Oh.
Little Miss Monk, do you have an answer for our question of the week?
Surprisingly, yes. Yes,
Oh,
I do.
I'm looking forward to this.
I
Does it involve roller derby?
No, it does
Okay.
not.
Okay.
It brings me back to my world history class, my sophomore year of high school.
Okay.
I read a book on gays during World War II.
Uh-huh.
Those who went and were put into concentration camps.
Okay.
I would like to know more. I would like to see that as an actual thing.
Okay.
Go through and see where this went.
Okay. So like a Diary of Anne Frank, but from the perspective of a homosexual during World War II.
Yes.
In
It
Europe.
was mildly touched on in To Be or Not to Be, Mel Brooks' movie To Be or Not to Be, which
Okay.
is one of his more serious films.
Right.
It was touched on that gays actually also had to wear pink triangles.
Yep.
Okay.
3 inches wide, if I remember correctly.
Yep. I remember that as well. All right, Producer Sherry.
I have two.
You have two?
I have two.
Go for it.
First one, the Great Australian Emu War.
Oh, my God, yes. Oh, my God, absolutely.
What?
In,
This is a thing.
in 1932.
And the emus won.
And they won, yes. In 1932, when the Australian soldiers were returning from war, they were given land in
Different parts of Australia.
In various
different
places.
But these were uninhabited by people. But there was about 200,000 giant flightless birds. and they were just decimating crops. They were tearing down fences. It was amazing. So the the military decided, okay,
We're going to go to war with
we're going to go to war with the emus, and they used machine guns to do it, and the emus won.
Yes.
They figure only about 300 emus were actually killed during a 2-year campaign.
And there are so many stories that come out of that country. And Monk shared a one with me via text recently. And the only thing I can say is just Australia.
So yes, I think there needs to be a movie about the Great Australian Emu War.
What was it on the Wikipedia page? They actually state mission failure. Emus persisted.
Yeah. Yeah. They're
awesome.
vicious little suckers.
It's awesome.
In my next life, I want to be Australian. That's all I got to say. Is just
I thought you were going to say you wanted to be an emu.
No, well, maybe an
I
emu.
want to be the emu.
They're almost bulletproof.
I want to be an Australian emu then.
Their feathers are so thick, they're almost bulletproof,
Bulletproof.
which is one of the reasons why they couldn't
This
kill
is
them
the
with
secret
machine
weapon
guns.
of Australia is the mutant emu.
Modern emus will actually come up behind humans and just start and peck them on the back and then just run away.
They're good at guerrilla tactics,
They're
is what you're saying.
mean.
Yeah.
Personally, I
birds.
like to think that's their
Tag, you're it.
that's their reward for winning the emu war. They can just walk up to people, peck them on the back, and run away.
Backstab.
Okay, so the second one.
Second one.
There was this woman. She was Princess Olga.
Okay.
Of Kiev, and she ruled in the early 900s.
Okay.
Like 932, I think she took, when her husband was killed by the Drevelians.
It sounds like a Star Trek alien.
Doesn't it though?
Seriously.
So they had a 3-year-old son, so she would become the regent until their son reached his majority, and the Drevlians did not like that idea at all. So they said, you need to marry our prince, and then our prince will rule over Kiev.
Okay.
So she said, okay, I'm not real fond of this idea. So they sent 20 of their best men to Kiev to convince her. And she welcomed them, and everything was good. And she's like, oh, you need to get cleaned up before dinner, put them in the bathhouse, lock the doors, and set the bathhouse on fire. Burn it to the ground. Okay, but wait, there's more.
Nice.
After that, she invited all the Drevlians to the funeral feast for her husband.
Okay.
They sent 5,000 men to it. And once they were all well drunk, she had all of her soldiers kill all 5,000 Drevlians.
Drevelians.
Isn't that
I
the?
think it's Drevlian.
Let me see. Yeah, Drevlians.
Yeah.
Now that I'm
Wasn't
seeing
that the basis for the Red Feast in Game of Thrones?
Pretty much.
You never know.
Pretty much.
Okay,
The Red
so,
Wedding.
but wait.
There's
more.
Oh, it just keeps going. And now who would be playing this princess?
I don't know.
We have to cast that by the end of this conversation.
Yes.
Okay, go
so
ahead.
the last piece of this is she laid siege to their city.
Okay.
To their capital city. And she was winning, and she said, okay, I will go away, but you need to do one thing for me. I want 3 pigeons and 3 sparrows from each house. From every single house in the city, I want 3 pigeons and 3 sparrows. Pigeons were kept as food birds.
Yeah.
Everyone had their own pigeon cotes. COTE.
Yes, I figured.
Yeah. And sparrows were very common in that area, and house sparrows, they nest under the eaves
Right.
of the houses. So she then took these birds and she gave them to her soldiers, who then attached a thread to each bird with a piece of sulfur bound with small pieces of cloth, sent them on fire, and released the birds.
Oh, no.
Who then returned to their homes
nests.
and burned down the entire city.
Oh, my God. This lady was not to be messed with in any way, shape, or form.
Damn.
She needs a movie.
She needs a
truly needs a movie.
And I see who I would like to cast as this person. Are you ready for this? I think Miley Cyrus. Really? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Really? No. I'm thinking along the lines of like Catherine Winnick, or Judi Dench, even depending on how old this person was.
Oh, she would have to be a lot younger if she has a 3-year-old son.
So Catherine
I
Winnick.
would think like Felicity Jones.
Felicity Jones is also a possibility there.
I want somebody who looks really, really sweet, but is just, and that's why nobody
Margot Robbie,
expects anything.
No. J-Lo?
No. What's
Who?
her?
J-Lo?
Jennifer Lawrence.
Yeah.
It's possible.
I'm thinking about the girl who plays Felicity in Arrow.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Emily Beth Rickard.
Yes.
Yes.
Couldn't you see her doing it?
Oh my God, yes.
Couldn't you see her
with a
doing
smile
it?
on her face?
Yes. And the best part of this story, she's a saint.
Nice.
She has been sainted.
She's been canonized by her church. That's
She has been, because she was
phenomenal.
one of the first Christian rulers of Russia.
My turn.
Your turn.
There was an anecdote that was sent to me by a friend of mine many, many years ago, and I thought it was hilarious. It'd be a great little meme kind of a thing. But then suddenly it was confirmed not by one but by 2 separate history professors that I've been friends with over the years. There was an occasion back in the medieval times where the Vikings invaded England for no other reason than they had run out of ale. I want a movie of that event. I want a movie of that. I want everything that led up to it. I want to see the battle, and I want to see the after party. That's all right. We'll use the cast of Vikings, and we'll mix in, we'll mix in the Animal House. That's all I can think of
Sounds
right
like
now.
a Monty Python.
It
movie.
really does, doesn't it? The Vikings invaded England for no other reason that they had run out of ale. That was it. I want a movie of that.
Nice.
That's
Very
hilarious.
nice. Nice.
Wow.
Yeah. I also there's also a deep-seated need to. I've seen many dramatizations of it, but I want to see the death of Rasputin, as played by Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I say, hasn't he died in 20 other million movies? And keeps
Yeah,
coming
but
back,
they never really do it
Anastasia?
justice. They never really do it justice. I think Anastasia was the best version of it because they get the bat. And I'll kick her, sir.
And I just love who voiced Rasputin.
Who voiced
Anastasia. What's his name? Great. No, I'm totally blanking on his name.
All right, Tanya's going to prolong your
No,
inevitable.
you'll know him. It was the guy who played the professor in the Back to the Future movies.
Oh, Christopher Lloyd.
Christopher Lloyd.
Oh, yeah. No, I remember that.
He
His
voiced
voice.
him.
I remember the voice now.
As opposed to Russell Johnson, the man who played the professor in Gilligan's Island.
There it is.
Man, I love Chris Lloyd.
Yep.
We should get him.
We should.
We should get him.
He's still alive, right?
There are a ton of familiar voices in there. Meg Ryan was
Yep.
Anastasia. John
Right.
Cusack.
John Cusack, yeah.
Kelsey Grammer. Yes.
Vladimir.
Oh, no, that was...
Who played the
Bartok was Hank Azaria.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
Bernadette Peters was Sophie.
Vladimir?
Kirsten
Vlad.
Dunst was young Anastasia.
Oh, wow.
The Dowager Empress Marie was Angela.
Angela
Angela
Lansbury.
Lansbury.
Yeah.
This was one of Lana's favorite movies.
Oh, it was a great
growing up.
movie. It was
I love
Jules's
this
too.
movie.
Jules loved it.
Love this movie.
So what do you say we pack it in for the week, huh? Sure. I loved this episode. This was a good one. This was a lot of fun. And this has been Monkey Business, a product of the Mighty Monkey Corporation, purveyors and producers of the Flower City Comic-Con, coming at you April 13th and 14th at the Blue Cross Arena. Follow us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, follow us wherever we go. We will lead you to where the entertainment is. This has been the gang.
April 13th and 14th.
April 13th and 14th. This has been the gang, and we love you. We miss you. We can't wait to see you again next week, and you have a great one.
Yahoo! Dun dun.